Good afternoon. Welcome to our informational meeting. First item on the agenda is our City Council staff report by Deborah Owen, City Clerk.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of items to let you know and to review from last week. As you know, the school board did vote to join with us on the election on April 13th, and then, of course, the April 27th election we do alone without the school district unless they have a chance or runoff. And then also we talked a little bit about the splitting of precincts in terms of keeping the voter line short in those precinct areas. And so before you is a copy. It's at the request of County Auditor Sue Roust about splitting these precincts. It has a number of them which started to be split. 110 and 117 would be split, having the voters vote at JFK for 110 or continue to vote at JFK. And then the 117 precinct would then have them vote at RF Pettigrew. And so far that's working out well with permission to have the voters go there for renting that. And then additionally, there's a number of, there's the 310, 311, 316, and 317. And it's somewhat confusing. This came over from Sue, but if you look at the voters, you can kind of see where she wants to be able to split those polling places. For instance, in 316, you have 915 who would vote at polling place M, and then the 1,060 at polling place D, and on 311 it would be about 11 or 1,200 who would vote at polling place C. So the idea would be to split that precinct in two to be able to accommodate those voters on Election Day, both for the city's regular and runoff, but also for the primary and the general, which is why this comes at the request of Sue Roust. That has been reviewed in part by Sue Roust and through Jeff Schmidt, and they're just finishing up their changes to this ordinance, and then we'll send it over to the city attorney's office for their final review. We just want to keep you up to date on what was going on there, as this will probably be on your February 1st agenda item if everything goes well. And then we had some discussion about the council member in terms of some charter revision amendments that were being brought forward by council members. The idea was to sever the two. One would be brought forward by council member Benega, who is not here today, but we reworded the sentence that was disputed by the city attorney's office, and I think that it will work well. We did double check with Chris Nelson, our Secretary of State's office, to make sure that we needed to have the phrase residing in the district and being eligible to vote. Those are both very important phrases to have together. You can actually be a registered voter who would have moved and left the district or perhaps moved into the district, so you may not be eligible to vote unless you have changed your address. So anyway, moving forward with that, I know there's another, the other amendment to that charter provision would be by Councilmember Litz, and I'll leave that for your discussion. Thank you.
Any questions for Deborah on those topics? Okay, next item on the agenda is Mayor Munson.
You want to wait? We're down there, I think, on the presentations for the survey.
We'll save the good news till later.
Pardon?
We'll save the good news till later.
Okay, there you go. I'm with you.
Okay, next item is Audit Committee. The only thing I would tell you is that on Thursday at 4:30 we'll have an Audit Committee meeting, and that'll be here in the overflow room. Fiscal Committee, no report. Land Use Committee?
No report.
Public Service Committee?
No report.
Okay, City Council open discussion. Councilor Knudsen.
Just a couple reminders, I guess, friendly reminders, and maybe for our calendar, too, it might be helpful, is this Saturday, I better put my glasses on, this Saturday from 1 to 3 at the Old Courthouse Museum, there's the next exhibit opening, and, of course, it's dear to my heart because it's about dogs. Man's best friend, and needless to say, that is true, man's best friend. But anyway, so again, that's this Saturday, January 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m. That's just a kickoff, of course, but of course then you can visit the exhibit for some time. And then I also wanted to remind all of you that the next two Whittier meetings, they got postponed a little bit, but they are going to be held Tuesday, January 26th at 6:30 p.m., and then again on Saturday, January 30th at 9 a.m., and those are scheduled to take place at Eastside Lutheran Church, and that's quite often the meeting spot. And I know that we all received, or I hope you all received this, the Whittier Resident Newsletter. It's the brand new first edition, and anyway, I think that's going to be a nice way for them to communicate with each other in their neighborhood and also better with us, too. And I did remind April Shavy, one of the leaders, that Saturday, January 30th, even though their meeting is at 9 a.m., the very first legislative coffee is at 10 a.m. that morning, but of course at a different site at the downtown Holiday Inn or the Holiday Inn City Center, and that runs from 10 to 11:30. And those are my only commercials for today.
Okay, any, Councilor Litz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deborah referred to the thing that I'm going to talk about here, and I was a little dismayed to find out from my leadership on the council that the proposal that I had that would allow councilors access to department heads for getting information is not being warmly received, and I didn't think it would be that big of a thing. I would also like to say that on my time here in the council, never have I been uncomfortable with the amount or my access to information from department heads under Mayor Munson's guidance here. I've never been uncomfortable with that. I felt like we've always had access to that. But the way it's written right now, it seems to me that it would, if somebody else come into the mayor's office, they could control the way information is disseminated to the council members, and it could turn into a political thing instead of just getting straight information. I've always thought it just had to do with open government, but and I understand the administration's reluctance to say what the next mayor should or should not be able to do as far as disseminating information or allowing a department head to speak, to councilors straight out. But I don't want to start a skirmish or anything like this, but I do feel rather strongly that this city council, in order to make good decisions, has to have access to the best of information and not filtered through what could be a political view from time to time, depending on the circumstances. But let me reiterate, and when Dave Munson has been mayor, I've never been uncomfortable with that situation. I'm looking down the road here where the possibility of it does exist. And I don't know which way I want to go with this thing here. I'm not certain I'm done pursuing it, but I think it's important that, for open government, that we at least examine this idea of having councilors have ready access to department heads and the information there contained.
Okay. Any comments or questions for Bob on that? Okay. Moving on, we've got, or any other council discussion? Councilor Knudsen?
Just something I forgot to say is that I read in today's paper that the next mayoral forum will be on Thursday, February 4th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at Trail Ridge, and I just would like to encourage citizens to continue to attend those forums, and so that they are well versed when they get to the ballot box or to the polling place on April 13th to choose their next mayor.
Thank you, Dee. Any other comments or concerns, questions? Now we'll move into the presentations. And the only presentation we have today is 2009 National Citizen Survey results by Director Rohnors.
We'd like, and I thank you, Councilor Costello. We'd like to just take some time here. This goes back to about 2007 to work with the council, and we worked together to develop a quality citizen survey that we could take and give to the people of Sioux Falls. And this is the second time that we've used this National Research Center to conduct the survey, and we really are very pleased with the results of the survey. And it looked at a whole range of areas, and I think this year again, as Gene will point out, we've got a great deal to be proud of what we've all accomplished here together. And if you look at the last survey, I think Sioux Falls was well above the benchmarks, and I think when compared to other cities that we used in this survey, so we looked at how far we have come, I should say, and I think it's going to show that again what the council has done, and we all work together to make something really that the citizens are proud of. So, do you want to go ahead, Gene?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. And Mayor, we thank you. We're glad to bring you the results of the 2009 Citizen Survey. This is the second time that we've worked with the National Research Center, which has partnered with the International City County Management Association, or ICMA, to create a national citizen survey. We administered this survey in early 2008, the first time, and this survey was conducted in October of this year. This is not this year, of 2009. The mayor and the council have chosen to do scientific surveys because they serve a wide variety of purposes. They help us in our programs, our policies, our planning, and our budgeting. They also help us directly connect with our citizens by giving us feedback that is statistically significant. So what is said in here has a sound statistical base behind it, as opposed to anecdotal evidence. The National Research Center has collected data on approximately 500 jurisdictions nationwide. For this survey, we mailed surveys to 3,000 randomly selected households. Actually, we've mailed that out twice. That's the way it works, to get the response rate that we want. We had a typical response rate, which resulted in a margin of error of plus or minus 3%. At times, you will notice that some numbers do not add to 100 due to rounding within the report. And that is the tradition of statistical information of this nature, is to round it to the nearest percent, and then you can end up that you don't always get 100, or you might get 101 sometimes. You're receiving 5 reports today, the same as you did in 2008. The report provides both demographic and geographic breakdowns, as well as a benchmark report against other jurisdictions. You'll want to look through these in detail, but for the purposes of today's presentation, we're going to focus on the summary of results because there's plenty to cover in that report alone. Just a couple things I would like to point out to you. For those of you that are elected by a district, there are 5 districts, and the report is, there is a breakdown when you do the one on demographic, I guess it is. It's broken down in there by district. So for those of you that were elected by district, it should be interesting to you. We broke the report up into a couple of different blocks, and the primary focus areas of the overall survey is the community quality, which we call community quality, and we'll explain to you what that means, service areas, and then public trust. One of the reasons we measure community quality is because it indicates our success in providing a wide variety of services, and this is supported by a comment taken directly out of the report. Quality of the community life is one of the best indicators of the city's success in providing services and amenities that make for an attractive community. The first basic question we asked is, how do you rate Sioux Falls as a place to live? 92% of our respondents said it is either a good or excellent place to live, which is at a 3% increase above the 2008 survey. And like all other community quality characteristics, it's above the national and the comparable benchmark. Just for your information, the benchmark, there's 2 of them. There's a national survey, and then there's a benchmark by region. And those are both in the other reports, and we're just going to focus on the top at this time. We also asked about the overall quality of the life in Sioux Falls, and 88% said that the quality of life was excellent to good. This is a 5% increase over the 2008 survey, which means it is a statistically significant increase. To be significant in one direction or another, you need to lose or gain at least 5 points. If you have any questions while we're going through this, please stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. 93% told us they would recommend living in Sioux Falls to someone who asks, which is also above the benchmark. But when you start thinking about this, 93% of the people in Sioux Falls would recommend living in Sioux Falls if someone asked them about it. So there's a lot of loyalty there when you have that kind of a response. In this policy question, we asked the people what they think makes Sioux Falls a great place to live. We were going to play a little Family Feud, but we decided we might better not do that here. But when you look at this graph, we gave them 17 items on factors on a list that they could check, as many as they wanted. You can see the most frequently selected responses. So parks came out at 66%. Friends and family came to 62%. Size of the city came to 61%. And 59% said safety of the community. From that point on, the number of selections dropped rather dramatically. So these are the 4 top ones of what people think makes Sioux Falls a great place to live. Next question is, please rate how well the City of Sioux Falls is managing growth. This is another example of a policy question that gives us a big picture look at what people are thinking. 93% said the city does a fair job or better at managing growth, with the majority saying it is a good to excellent. So if you look at that, good to excellent, that's the red and the green one in there. But people think the city is definitely headed in the right direction. The next area we looked at was what's called referred to as services, and we again performed very well against the benchmark and against our own past performance. One service that's been a focus for us, certainly in the recent weeks, is snow removal. 68% tell us snow removal is good or excellent, which was a 9% jump from 2008. An excellent move on this process. This also is above the benchmark nationwide, but a 9% increase, that is a remarkable increase in about an 18-month time frame from when we took the first survey. One of the factors that's a little lower than we would like, but we've been working on it, street repair has been an area that is of considerable focus for us since the last survey. So we're glad to see our good and excellent responses have gone up 7 percentage points since 2008. To give you an idea of the volume of work that's been done, we worked on 1,100 city blocks in the 2009 construction season alone, and some of the work wasn't even wrapped up yet when this survey was in the field. So through this came, although this came in slightly below the benchmark, we've been seeing a significant increase in the people's satisfaction and clearly have a good plan in place that this is starting to show results. So the net story is it was up 7% by putting some extra money into it. We would, based on this, we would recommend that we're going to continue something to that effect. We had above average rating of people who thought the appearance of our city was good or excellent. This was up 2 percentage points from 2008. One interesting thing to look at is how people view the work environment in Sioux Falls. 73% said the city was a good or excellent place to work. This went up 5 percentage points from 2008. And you'll remember when the survey was conducted in 2008, the recession had not yet hit Sioux Falls. So people may actually be recognizing that Sioux Falls may be a better place to work or find a job in than other cities. And actually, when you look at the book in detail, you'll find all the economic sustainability questions rank Sioux Falls above the benchmark nationally and against other cities our size. And that this other benchmark that we're referred to is for cities the size of 90,000 to 300,000. Public safety is one of the more important parts of our survey. We have several positive results to share in the public safety. These are very comparable to 2008, but as you can see, most people feel safe in their neighborhoods, which puts us above the benchmark. So you have the public safety there, somewhat safe in your, feel very or somewhat safe in your neighborhood, 95% during the day, 78% at night. Public safety feels very good about safety in the downtown area. We also asked about public safety downtown. 89% said they feel safe during the day, which is a 1% increase from 2008. And 45% feel safe after dark, which is an increase of 4 percentage points. So while we'd like to see some improvement here, we are heading in the right direction. These graphs address fire and police services specifically. Both performed very well in the survey, with fire ranking as one of the top services citywide. And police also showed a solid 5 percentage point increase since 2008. Both of these are above the benchmark. Environmental sustainability. People also told us they think Sioux Falls is a clean city, with 81% saying it is good or excellent, which is above the benchmark. This question was not asked in 2008, so we do not have any comparative data to show to you. Recreation and wellness. Here you can see other city services that were measured and all performed very well in the survey. Parks and library each had a 3% increase in good or excellent responses. Citywide health services was up 4 percentage points. And once again, these are all above the benchmark. One thing you should keep in mind on the medical, this is not testing just the medical center that's operated by the city. This would cover the hospitals and clinics and that we have that are other than just the city. The cities is included in this, but there was no distinction in the survey, so the responders would take the city as a whole. Community inclusiveness, 72% rated the sense of community as good or excellent. The survey also asked about how people relate to their community, and in this question, 72% said their sense of community is good and excellent, and this is a 7% increase in 2008. And I hope we're starting to see a trend here. I think we've got them all up, except for the one streets one, and they're up nicely. We know people are inclined to volunteer in Sioux Falls, and the survey showed that as well. 61% said they had volunteered time to a group or activity in the last year. This was a 4% increase and is above the benchmark. Employees of Sioux Falls, this is one of the things that you should all be very proud of. One area we're particularly pleased about is the overall impression of our employees. 80% of the people who had contact with our employees said they were left with a good or excellent impression. 80%. So now that's what our employees are doing. When we asked residents what they thought about employees' knowledge, responsiveness, and courtesy, the results were all equally strong and almost all above the benchmarks. Equally impressive is the fact that all of these areas increased from 2008. Some as much as 8 percentage points. And in your book that you've got, this is all detailed in there for you. In summary, in the service areas, we just talked about and how we compare to other benchmark communities nationwide. As you can see, the vast majority of areas surveyed ranked Sioux Falls above the benchmarks. 5 areas were similar, and 2 that were talked about in the street repair and street cleaning were slightly below. And I want to emphasize that. It's slightly below. It's not going to take much to take those 2 that are below to push them up into the similar category. But in looking at the detail behind the ranking, we found that we were very close to moving into the similar range and are clearly on track to keep improving these results. The last broad category we want to look at is the public trust, which is important to all of us because it helps us foster a good environment within our city government. All of the areas we measured in this category were above the benchmark. Unfortunately, we don't have comparative data for these areas because the response options were changed from 2008. So because of the change, the numbers don't quite correspond to one another, and so the best thing we can do is look at the benchmark. This is just a look from the National Research Center about the factors that influence public trust. We surveyed and will briefly review each of these areas, and you can see those: welcoming, listening, image, value of services, and direction. We asked people what kind of job we do at welcoming citizens' involvement, and 91% said it was at least fair. The majority said it was good or excellent, and this would be asking people for involvement in city government and other activities in the city. 91% said it was at least fair. We also asked what kind of job we do listening to citizens, and in this category, 82% said it was at least fair or better. Again, this was above the national benchmark, and we've got some work to do there. We should do some work on understanding why people feel this way about it and what we can do to change the outcomes. People have a very good image or impression of the overall image and reputation of Sioux Falls. 85% said it was good or excellent. A critical statistic for us is the value people place on the services they receive for the taxes they pay. Remember from the book, Open Government, government is here to, the price of government. Government is here to sell services to the citizens. That's really the function of what this group has, is to find the services that people really want. We were very pleased to see that 92% thought they were receiving at least fair value for their tax dollars. Now that, I don't know about you, but I find that being incredible. I mean, you have 92% think they're getting at least a fair deal in what they pay. And a majority, 59%, thought they received good or excellent value. 59%, just short of 60%, thought they were getting excellent or good value. We think this is a real credit to the mayor, to the council, to the staff, for allocating resources that aligns with citizens' priorities. We also believe it reflects the valuable outcomes that the departments are achieving with these resources. And finally, we ask about the overall direction of the city, and again, the results were very positive. The majority, a strong 67%, or 2 out of 3 people think we're headed in a good and excellent direction, and 93% are at least satisfied with the direction we're heading. I can tell you within talking with the survey administrators in Colorado that they continue to be amazed at the strength of the results of the City of Sioux Falls, and I'd like to thank all of you, council members, mayor, and staff, for your contributions to these results, and we look forward to running this survey again in a year or two. This survey, what you got there, is a tool that we will use, and there's a lot to learn in it by reading it. It's a tool that we will use this year in developing the budget process, particularly for 2011, and to some extent going back and reviewing 2010. But it's a tool. It's actually a document that's still in a writing phase, almost a draft phase. There's so much information in there, and we're working on being able to get at more and more of the detail and understand how some of these numbers come about. But it's a strong tool that I think is excellent for the council and for the mayor in making your decisions about what ought to happen in the city. Questions?
Gene, I just have one question. What do you think our biggest opportunities are, having gone through and the report in detail? From listening to you, that my 2 takeaways were we've got some concern in streets, but we're making improvements, and we need to keep on those. And then also perhaps listening to the citizens more. That area seemed to me to be lower than what I would maybe have hoped. What are the big takeaways from this and opportunities?
Well, when you go through this, my takeaway from it is, first, let's keep doing pretty much what we're doing. It's worked, and we've got the statistical evidence to prove it. So we want to focus on that, so we don't make any knee-jerk reactions to it. This is just because something is good in here does not mean more is better. A lot of it is keep doing what you're doing. Police in particular, 93% satisfaction. It's hard to push that number up. I use the story that the fire chief tells, or a question he asks, what's the right number of fires to have in your city?
0.
0. how many fires are we really going to have? Well, we've got that up to a level that pushing it up anymore, when you're talking 89, 90%, 93%, keep doing what you're doing. It's going to be very, very difficult to do more because you're up there. So the takeaways are to do some prudent studies of this. We'll lay what we're doing against it as far as the budget goes and how we allocate resources, and do it very carefully. But the big thing is keep doing what we're doing.
Councilor Knudsen?
Director Rowenhorst, thank you for that encouraging report. I was curious, I know that there were 3,000 people surveyed for the statistical, the official survey, but I know that citizens were encouraged to go ahead and go online if they did not receive one of the surveys in the mail. And I was just curious, I know those results do not go into this booklet, but I was just curious about how many people took the time to go online and express their views about our great city.
Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to compile those numbers yet, but we'll get those to you. That shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Gene? Councilor Jameson?
I guess maybe just publicly, I'd like to extend my congratulations to the mayor and his staff for all the work they've done, for getting us the city and all their leadership. Certainly the council's been a part of this picture that was painted today. Just on my time that I've been on the council, we've done a lot of crazy things. I mean, we've raised taxes, we've borrowed a lot of money, and we've built a lot of things. And it appears that we're doing the right thing. From what I can gather, I haven't dug into the whole survey, but just based on your presentation today, it seems like some of those big decisions we've made over the past year are some of the right decisions, and we need to continue that. At least, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I would echo that as well, Greg. This truly is a really good news story for the city of Sioux Falls. It doesn't mean that we don't have our challenges and our opportunities, and we were made aware of some of our challenges yesterday. And I hope that doesn't cloud the coverage of this in the media tomorrow, because this really is an important aspect to know that 92% of the citizens would recommend Sioux Falls to live, and all the other numbers we just went through. It really is remarkable, and I'm very proud to have had a little portion of responsibility in some of this over the last 3.5 years. Councilor Knudsen.
Just one other thought I had for the listening public is that to just remind the public again, as far as like the listening to citizens, is that I'm just incredibly proud to work with this group of city councilors and mayor and directors and staff, because I just like to encourage citizens who to go ahead and feel more comfortable contacting us. I mean, all of our home phone numbers are out there, our emails are out there. I mean, we are all answering emails and phone calls any time, day or night, and so we really are interested in your opinion, but you do need to contact us, and we encourage you to come to meetings also, and we are really pretty nice folks and really committed to this city.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Gene and Mayor Munson. We do have an executive session scheduled today. Is there any other open discussion prior to going into executive session?
Do we want to do that with one of the city councilors absent?
Well, I would think that maybe we could go into executive session. I'd like to bring some information forward for everyone, and barring, seeing how it goes, and if we decide to defer the topic to another time, we can do that at that time.
Okay. I make a motion to go into executive session for
no other open discussion? Okay. The motion to go into executive session.
For personnel reasons,
Yep.
D. Knudsen.
Yep. Any other, or second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Jameson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are in executive session.